Um, we've started recording, and just to refresh, this rulemaking's purpose is to update the student loan reporting metrics that servicers will be asked to provide. We'll also be amending the uh, liquidity requirements, and these are all in the administrative rules. With that, let's just jump into introductions. I'll start with myself. My name is Teddy Bodega. I'm a policy analyst with the Division of Financial Regulation, and I'll be leading today's RAC. I'll pass it on to Lane Thompson.
Hi, everyone. Lane Thompson, Oregon Student Loan Ombuds. Thank you all for being here with us today. And I'll pass it over to Jenny.
Good morning. I'm Jenny Redding. I am the student loan servicing examiner and licensing person. And I appreciate you guys all being here today.
Thanks, Jenny. Haven.
Good morning. I'm Haven Garber. I'm the non-depository program manager that oversees the licensing and examination of student loan servicers. Thank you.
And Karen.
Good morning. I am Karen Winkle, and I am the rules coordinator for the division. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Brooke.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Brooke Hall, and I am a policy analyst for the division, and I am also the rulemaking lead for the division.
Thanks. Carla.
Good morning, Carla Martinez. I'm the section manager for consumer education and engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll open it up for the attendees. Please introduce yourself by stating your name and your affiliation or organization. I'll just go down the list here. First, it's Angela Donnelly.
Hi, Angela Donnelly, State Policy Director for Oregon Consumer Justice.
Emily Gearing.
Hello, I'm Emily Gearing. I am from Nelnet.
Okay. Joe Greco.
Hi, Joe Greco from College F Student Loan Servicing.
Kate McKeon.
Hi, yes, I am an Assistant Attorney General with the Department of Justice, Consumer Protection Section.
Okay, thanks. Marie Newcomb. Okay.
Hello, my name is Marie Newcomb. I'm with ARC Servicing and Operations and Compliance Administrator.
Okay, thank you. Megan Quintrell.
Good morning. My name is Megan Quintrell. I am the Advocacy Cohort Lead with Oregon Consumer Justice.
Thank you. Scott Buchanan.
Yeah, good morning out there. Scott Buchanan, the Executive Director of the Student Loan Servicing Alliance.
Thank you. Teresa Umrich.
Hello, ARC Servicing, Operations and Compliance in Kentucky.
Thank you. Thomas Goki.
Sorry, I'm Thomas, organizer with the Debt Collective.
Thank you. Winston Berkman.
Hi, folks.
Breen.
Winston Berkman Breen, Legal Director with Protect Borrowers.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone I missed? All right. Well, thanks everyone, and I will open it up to Lane and Jennifer to share their background on the scope of rulemaking. Lane, would you mind? Well, go ahead. Let's start by just sharing the background. We'll do the rule text next.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Teddy. So the background of this rulemaking is really that a few years ago in my annual report to the legislature, one of my recommendations was that we start looking into ways to measure and eventually set goals around customer service delivery. This has come up because nearly every complaint that I receive, those borrowers have tried other avenues already. They've tried going through the servicer, they've tried other regulators, and what they find more than anything is that they get put on hold for a long time. They have even when they are able to talk to folks, it seems like there are issues in getting complaints resolved. So because of that complaint pattern, we really just wanted to kind of look at ways that we can encourage and support servicers in providing that really great customer service. So kind of that's where this is coming from, from the 20,000 feet or whatever. This is in line with what a fair amount of other states collect, and some of these metrics that we're collecting are also things that federal student loan servicers already report as part of that federal contract. I think that's all I really have to say for now. I'm happy to answer questions as we go.
Thanks, Lane. Next, Jenny. Thank you.
Okay. All right. As far as the other part that we're changing with the liquidity requirement, over the past few years, we have found that the statute as it is written right now is not necessarily as accurate for all the different sizes of servicers that we are dealing with. So we are trying to bring it more in line with what other states are doing, just to make sure that we're not setting a requirement that is higher or lower than it needs to be for a specific company. So that's really why we're doing this.
Thank you. Thanks, Jenny. I think we have one new participant. Julia, can you please state your name and affiliation?
Yes, hello. My apologies. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry I was late. I'm Julia Barnard. I was the student loan ombudsman at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and I'm currently with the Debt Collective. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That's the background and scope of the rulemaking. Were there any initial questions for Lane or Jenny or myself? All right. Well, next we'll discuss the draft rules. The these attachments were also sent in via email, so you should have a copy, and I believe they're also available on the website, but they should be in your email as well. But this is essentially the change. These are the changes we're seeking to make with regards to liquidity requirements. We're simply adding that an applicant or licensee must maintain liquidity of 0.00035 times the unpaid principal balance of the nationwide portfolio. And that's the one change we'll be making to that administrative rule. Next we go down to the servicer reporting requirements.
Could I ask how the liquidity, the 0.00035, like how did that come? How'd you get to that number, I guess?
Well, certainly. Jenny or Haven, would you like to take that?
Yeah, this is Haven. We looked at what other states require, and it's in line with, I believe, Washington and similar states.
Hey, is it, and I'm just asking on process here, are y'all running through this, or do you want to do questions and comments sort of as we go here? Because I certainly have some questions and thoughts about this particular provision, but I'm happy to wait if later it's
Yeah.
appropriate.
Let's discuss this. Let's discuss liquidity, and then feel free to ask questions now for liquidity, and then we'll go back through and do the servicer requirements. I'll also say that this is an open forum to ask any questions now, and we'll be accepting. There's a public comment period and an opportunity to provide written comments after today's meeting. Those comments will be due July 21. And so we'll be taking questions back with us today. So if we don't have an answer today, we'll certainly have the opportunity to follow up with you over the course of this process. And with that, Scott, did you, you're free, you're free to go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think, listen, I think if one of the challenges here is I think, servicers are not lenders, right? And this seems to be a provision that mirrors capital requirements and liquidity requirements that are generally applied by, whether it's federal prudential regulators or states onto lenders themselves. And obviously, so that they hold reserves, so that the assets underperform, that there is sufficient capital to address that issue. But servicers do not hold these assets, right? So the economics of the overall performance, and whether that's default, charge-off, delinquency, that is held by the holder of the loan, who is subject to other regulations and is not a servicer. I want to highlight, for example, that if you took this, I think it's a rather arbitrary number, and apply that to the federal servicers, if this were to apply to them, would have to hold $500 million in capital liquidity based upon this requirement, which is unworkable for those servicers, and in fact would mean that we'd have to draw down, $500 million in money that otherwise would be going to providing customer service to hold it in liquidity positions, as opposed to spending it on putting people on the phone. So I think this provision in practical effects would have the opposite effect and is not workable. In fact, you referenced Washington. Servicers have already communicated to Washington that they will not be able to meet this requirement. And so I'm really not sure. Number one, it seems to not necessarily reflect the economics of servicing versus lending, but also seems to be sort of a relatively provision that would have the exact opposite effect if a servicer could ever meet this requirement, which they won't be able to.
I appreciate that comment, and we will definitely take it under advisement. As Teddy said, I think we suggest all comments also be in writing. So yeah,
Yep.
We will take that under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you. So were there any other comments, questions, or concerns concerning the liquidity rule? Okay. Next
Can
we
I
can
ask a
go
question?
on.
I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, please.
Do we have at the top like the definition of servicers? I'm sorry if I missed it. Okay, we don't.
Not within this exact draft, but while we discuss, I will check our website, the full text of the rules, because okay. Lane will also pull it up, but these two rules come out of the broader division's rules on student loan servicing. So as Lane looks that up, let's go on to the rules on servicer requirements, reporting requirements. Yeah. Karen, can you zoom out a little bit? Maybe we can get more on the page. Yeah, that's good. Could everyone see that? Great. Okay. So this is the edit we're making to the rule text, which provision 1 is the same, and we're adding provision 2 here, which would list the data points that servicers would be required to submit. So servicers would submit a statement with a detailed breakdown of the customer service metrics relating to the servicing of student loans, including wait times for customer service calls, wait times for addressing borrower inquiries and complaints, including electronic communications, number of borrower contacts via chatbot, IDR, income-driven repayment application processing times, payment processing times, number of borrower complaints received, the number of borrowers who requested forbearance, the number of borrowers whose requests for forbearance were approved, the number of borrowers whose requests for forbearance were denied, the number of loans whose missed payments were reported to credit reporting agencies as on time, the number of loans whose missed payments were reported to credit reporting agencies as late, the number of borrowers whose defaulted loan accounts were sent to third-party debt collectors, the number of borrowers whose late payment fees were waived, the number of borrowers for whom late payment fees were assessed, number of escalated complaints, most frequent subject matter for complaints, second most frequent subject matter for complaints, third most frequent subject matter for complaints, average time for complaint resolution, total number of borrowers with multiple complaints. Can we go on to number 4? Just thanks. We'll also include this provision that the use of the nationwide multi-state licensing system. The director of the Department of Consumer and Business Services is authorized to utilize the nationwide multi-state licensing system for the submission of any report required by this section and is authorized to update as necessary the requirements of this section to carry out the purposes of this act and maintain consistency with NMLS reporting. And we'll also have the provision that any additional relevant information be submitted as required by the director. So with that, were there any, well, I think this is a good time to also share the exhibit. That exhibit was also emailed out. And this would be the format and manner in which the reporting would be submitted to DCBS. I believe it'd be electronically submitted through to the licensing team. And with that, any questions and comments regarding the servicer reporting reportments? And
Sure,
if you do have any comments or questions, please use the raise hand function. Great. And we'll go in the order as it appears on here. So Winston.
Thank you so much for all the work on this and for laying this out. I just want to, as a global matter, say I think requiring this kind of reporting around customer service delivery is great. I have sort of 3 areas where I'd recommend sort of adding more detail or parsing these out. And the first is with respect to the very first item, wait times for customer service calls. I think it would be great if the regulations either defined what a wait time is or broke it down. Because I think what we hear is that folks, they call and then after a few minutes they connect and they go back on hold. So figuring out some way to capture like the totality of the wait time and not just how long did it take to first reach a live person or how long did it take until you were off hold if you are then subsequently going to be put on hold. So something about cumulative wait time or asking for a narrative understanding of how they're coming up with the time for customer service calls and wait times. So that's my comment on that first part. Others may have more to say on that. The second comment has to do with the what is I think number 19, if I see correctly, around complaints. Is I think getting a breakdown for the outcome of the complaints. I don't think I saw that there in terms of closed with no change to the borrower's account or closed with some form of relief or account level revision would be helpful. So sort of not just have the whole number of complaints, but to understand how they were processed. And that would be similar to how the CFPB handles its complaints, complaints closed with no resolution, with resolution, et cetera. Understanding, of course, that not all complaints are about errors or wrongdoing. Sometimes a complaint is just a request for help, and so it's appropriate if it's closed without sort of an account level fix. But I think understanding how the complaints were resolved is really important in addition to just whether they were resolved. And then the final thing I would add, which would be new, but I think, from Lane's comment at the top about what these data requests are trying to get at, is I think some items around staffing levels are really important and asking for a breakdown of staffing levels across the different functions to understand whether or not licensees are appropriately staffing and wait times or number of how long it takes to process an application or number of complaints resolved is one way to understand if things are being done on time. But if reporting of staffing were to reveal that it's one or two staff members on a particular function, maybe that's an improper staffing for the license activity. So those are sort of the three things, is wanting to really be clear about what wait time means, complaint resolution outcomes, and request information on staffing levels.
Great. Thanks, Winston. Next is Julia.
Thanks. I definitely agree with everything Winston said, including the fact that this is awesome that y'all are adding these. I think this is a really wonderful thing. I assume that you're going to post this publicly, but either way, I feel like I would like to know if you're going to do that. And if you are going to do that, could we put it in here that you're going to do that so that it's super clear in the law? I guess you could answer it now. Okay.
Yeah. This entire discussion will be published is recorded and will be published online. Can you specify what?
Oh, sorry. I mean when you get the metrics from the servicers, will that be published?
Oh, okay. That might be a question for Lane, and internally DCBS, we can get back to you, but do either Lane or Haven have any immediate answers to that?
My understanding is that this reporting would fall under our data transparency law, so we would be reporting it out. If there's anything confidential or anything proprietary, of course, that would not be published.
Okay, cool. I just think it seems important to me to say that we want that at least. And then if you guys want to write it into this, that it's publicly posted on an annual basis, that seems good to me. I also had a couple things, just smaller, including everything Winston said. One was on the missed payments. It looks like you have like a lot of missed payment questions, but not the top line question of how many people missed payments, which seems like we need that in order to get the denominator. That goes for all the questions about late payments. That's that. Number two, I was wondering if for 12, you could then ask for the name of the third-party debt collectors. And then I've seen in other states like a little funny business on default rates, which I don't even see that you're asking for. but seems important to ask for. But anyway, in the other states, it seems to me that there's some funny business on servicers identifying the borrowers in the given state versus the national portfolio. And so to me, it seems like the smartest thing to do would be to ask for both the state numbers and the national numbers so that you could then see what you're looking at and understand how your state compares. So that's what I think would be good. I think that's all I have at the moment. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks. Next is Scott.
Sure, yeah. Well, listen, I will echo sort of what Winston said at a high level about sort of specificity about some of these things. I think you come up with these questions, and I think they're very, important questions to ask, but really getting at what you mean by them is incredibly important. In order to even have some comparative analysis you could do between servicers, right? So like, for example, I'm just going to give you a handful and I can provide more later. But, wait times for customer service calls, are you talking about what's the monthly average wait time, the daily average over the course of the year? I think being super specific about what that window looks like. Wait times for borrower inquiries. I think specifying whether are you talking about written inquiries, or if someone, makes an inquiry in a phone call on two different topics, like is that an inquiry that needs to have a wait time? Chatbots, borrower contacts with chatbots, I think that's going to be a difficult one because most of the chatbots don't necessarily require you to authenticate. So we wouldn't necessarily know if that person is a borrower, and certainly not necessarily know which one they are. If they have authenticated and have an interaction, that's a different story. And on payment processing times, I would be interested to know sort of what the goal here is, in the sense that payments, every servicer applies payments on the effective date of its receipt. And so the processing time for that payment wouldn't have any effect on the consumer, because whether it takes a day or 2 days or 3 days, the consumer gets the benefit of it being applied on the day it was received, regardless of processing time. Some other things, like, for example, on defaulted student loans, I assume we mean charge off in the private context here, but I think we want to be clear about these are terms of art. In the federal loan program, that means something very specific. But probably on the private loan side, you'd be more interested in relative to a charge-off date, as opposed to a default date, since there's technical default once a borrower is late. And I'm assuming that's not what you intend to capture here. I would also say on the subject matter for complaints, I wonder if the state will be providing a list of those, or if each servicer should come up with a set of 10 or 15 categories to bucket those out. I think you'd probably want consistency. So you could compare across servicers in these matters. So I think that would need either some sort of regulatory guidance or sub-regulatory guidance on what you particularly are looking for. And on the credit bureau reporting thing, I would think, it might be worth thinking some more about what exactly the goal here of this is, because, and number one, I highlight that in the sample form that was provided, number 10 is a little bit different. I think there's probably just a typo of something missing on the sample form. But number 10, for example, in the regulation here lists the number of loans whose missed payments were reported to credit bureaus as on time. And I think the question in here is missed payments or missed payments that were sufficient to trigger credit bureau reporting. Keep in mind that credit reporting is generally done once a month by the servicer. And so sometimes if the missed payment is resolved prior to the reporting date, they are never reported to the credit bureau as being delinquent. So I think it's important to determine, are you trying to get at people who have crossed over that 30-day delinquency rate and therefore would be subject to credit bureau reporting? Or do you mean just missed payments in general? Because I think that's going to be a very difficult thing to reconcile, since those don't necessarily get reported again if they are resolved prior to the credit bureau reporting date that the servicer utilizes. And I would and we'll certainly provide some more comments on these things, but I think digging deep into think about what you mean to really get apples to apples comparison is incredibly important on these things. I would say on staffing levels, I certainly understand the concept, but I think if you capture staffing levels and use that as a comparative tool, then that necessarily doesn't reflect the outcomes of performance, because certainly if servicer X has automated a function and has a system solution that resolves that issue in a brief period of time versus servicer Y, who has a manual process to do that, if your metric suggests that you believe that more staff is better, then that actually would discourage automation, which I certainly think is not what we want to do. And regardless, should be more focused on the outcomes of what the customer experience is like, rather than the tools and deployment of capital and staffing that a servicer on the back end does to get to that outcome. So thanks. Those are just some of my high-level comments.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Kate.
Yes, and I apologize, my camera is glitching this morning. I have just two kind of high level nitpicky comments. The first is on paragraph 2. I think it's missing some sort of language, like the report must also contain a statement with a detailed breakdown. And similarly on item 6, it kind of presumes that this is a list of things that should be provided, but I think it should be clarified that the licensee shall submit any additional relevant information required by the director, and it would probably also be helpful in that case to put some sort of timeline on it. But those are the only two comments that I have right now.
Great, thank you. Julia?
Sorry, I came up with more. Okay, and I appreciate you guys. Okay, I said look at the state and national level just so we can understand like how Oregon compares. Then I was thinking, what about like consequences for incorrect or incomplete submissions, including like automatic fines? I feel like that's something that happens a lot with other states as well. And I think I do think the whole getting to the question I asked in the chat about how we're defining student loans and whether that encompasses tuition payment plans, buy now, pay later, and other institutional loans, I think it's important to like spell out that those are included, because I think there are a lot of servicers who are either confused or willfully not providing information on those loan types. And then I think potentially in the submissions you could break out by loan type or loan type generally. So that could be federal versus private, or it could be, installment versus whatever traditional. But I think it seems important to break some of this out. And then to the comment that Scott made about the complaint categories, I at the CFPB, when I was ombuds in the annual reports, we did break out the most common complaint categories, and you could just take from there if you want. It was pretty standard year over year, so I don't think it would be that hard to simply pull those in. And I'm happy to help if you want. Oh, and then one final thing was, I think it would be amazing to ask for revenue per loan for the servicer, like on a per loan basis.
Great, thank you. So that concludes the hands raised. Lane, go ahead.
I just wanted to speak to something that Julia said really quickly, which is that we have provided a bulletin to industry regarding income share agreements and that they do meet Oregon's definition of a loan. And I believe there may be forthcoming things on other such issues. So I'm just going to say that that might not be covered here. And it is something that we are talking about generally other places. Thank you.
Thanks. Thomas?
On the wait times, I do think adding some definition for what counts as a wait time or different categories of wait time makes sense. My concern is that a lot of the servicers, when you call and there's going to be a long wait time, they give you the option for a callback, which sounds nice. But I think following up to see how many people do get a callback and the issue gets resolved. But the callback itself creates a series of problems, right? Where we know that the student loan scammers are very sophisticated at this point, and there are all kinds of people calling borrowers saying, I'm your student loan servicer, give me all of your private info. And you know, I don't know how these servicers are tracking people, but it seems uncanny. As soon as somebody, you know, Googles their student loan servicer, they start getting a wave of these scam calls. So, you know, best practice being to always be the one who's reaching out to the financial institution rather than answer a random phone call. Especially when the callbacks are asking for your social security number to authenticate, when they're not providing anything to authenticate that they're actually the legitimate servicer. So for that reason, you know, our recommendation to borrowers is to not take the callback and just wait on hold. But I do worry that forcing people into those callbacks as a way to make your wait time numbers look better is going to be tempting. And so having a separate category for that that is tracked differently makes sense to me.
Thanks, Thomas. I'll just say that, you know, this rulemaking isn't really intended to amend the servicer's process and how they conduct their customer service, but, you know, this is great information to have for everyone on this call. So with this rulemaking, we may not see many changes to that, but thank you for your comment. And with that, that's all. Those are all the hands raised. Again, we can open this up for more discussion. Any other thoughts, comments, or concerns this time? Okay. I'm not seeing any. And so the next phase here would be just that the next rack is scheduled for August 18th. Karen will be sending out an invitation with materials for that invitation about a week and a half before the meeting. But, you know, please keep in mind that we would really appreciate and welcome any written comments from today's meeting, following up from today's meeting with your concerns and what you've expressed today. We most certainly would like to have that in writing. There was a lot discussed. There was a lot of ideas shared. And of course, you know, we probably didn't capture all of it today, but your written comments will be welcomed until July 21. And if you have any issues with that deadline, or if you have any other technical issues, please feel free to reach out to myself or Karen throughout this process. Be expecting an updated draft rule text. Given the feedback we've received today, it probably won't look exactly the same as it was in this first draft. So we'll have that sent out back to the group before the next RAC meeting. Lane, Haven, or Jenny, was there anything you wanted to add?
I guess I just want to make sure we know where those comments should be submitted. Should those be sent to you, Karen, elsewhere?
Great, yeah, to Karen Winkle. And Karen, if I'm wrong, I think that's correct. Yeah.
That's fine.
That's fine. Okay. And you include myself. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have not been able to get this rulemaking added yet to the rulemaking web pages. But once I do, it will show today's agenda and the draft rules. But it'll also list my email address and Teddy's email address. So actually, I would say send it to the both of us so we make sure we get it to one or the other. And a copy of this recording will also be put onto the student loan servicers rulemaking webpage. I don't have a deadline date. I'm hoping to get it all up by the end of this week.
And can we send that out to this group once it is up?
Sure. I can send out an email.
That would be awesome. And I think my only other last question or thought is when we come back for that second rulemaking, are we expecting additional comments at that time? Just want to clarify whether folks have an additional moment to comment or if this is kind of we're doing this and then we have the written comments and then we're done.
There would be a second opportunity to continue to provide comments after each rack. Karen, I wanted to ask, I think there is a website up. Do you mind if I share it in the chat?
No, that'd be great.
Okay.
There's been a lot going on my world.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Same here. All right. Well, then I will stop yapping, but I really do appreciate everybody's time today. Really insightful perspectives on this. I took a lot of notes and definitely look forward to reconvening in August.
Great. Thanks, Lane, and thanks, everyone. We'll be in touch and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.